Yeah, so let's think of an AI no-code platform, right? Like what would be an ideal case? Uh, Today, many of the Gen AI APIs that are available are still available as like APIs and technologies. However, once we start having no code on AI, right? Like think of it as a use case where a large business that has like hundreds of thousands or millions of customers uh, has a lot of products, has a lot of policies that not just their customers, even their staff may not know it fully, right? And this business is likely to have pages and pages of documentation on their website or internal FAQs for their customer care staff, all of them. But it's unlikely that any single person knows all of these contexts fully, right? When a customer wants to find some information, it is incredibly difficult to find it at that point, right? It's like there could be thousands of pages of documentation around products, around policies, around internal processes. How can we quickly collate and mine that so that uh, if there is a query, can the query be typed in and we get an answer that is exactly responding to that? It quickly finds the answer from this thousands of documents and gives a response, right? So that's one use case. It could be for businesses, it could be for, let's say, a large telco, which has like various products, various policies, internal processes, uh, and that can be quickly typed in to understand. It could also be for let's say government policies and programs, um, uh, any kind of benefit program that is available. All of these, again, a lot of citizens don't know or have access to it. How can they quickly get access to it? The challenge is not that they don't have access to the information, it's just that the information is in a super complex form that makes it difficult for anyone to interpret it, right? Like, how can we empower that interpretation by giving AI powered chat interfaces, right? Or for an e-commerce company to know about their products, know about complementary products, know about customer reviews, know about what is working, both for their internal staff and again for end consumers. Uh, Mining the data and making it easily accessible is all big time available. The other big space that is likely to be impacted is education, right? It's uh, Gen AI is probably the best suited for education directly, right? Because uh, education by nature involves uh, curiosity, right? It's like being curious to understand things, understanding things at a deeper level, right? Not just answering a question that's in a textbook, but really understanding, probing further, right? And today, if you think about it, it's very difficult to keep drilling down further in the way the student wants to, right? It's there is course content or like online materials or like textbooks available in the sequence that was prepared for consumption, right? But a student may want to consume data in any way, and they may want to drill down in one aspect further and further to understand that, then come back and understand other concepts similar to that. Uh, Gen AI is very ideally suited for that, right? So I think education is going to be significantly uh, evolving using Gen AI. And it's more self-learning driven, more curiosity driven education that can be propagated through Gen AI platforms. So all these use cases can come into a no-code platform, right? It's like, uh, how do you configure content? How do you prioritize content? How do you train prompts? How do you build a feedback loop? Uh, Now, these can become a no-code platform, and that's the kind of things that we work on to enable our business clients or our enterprise clients to put in their data, mine their data, and make it easily accessible for their end consumers or their staff across various content that they have. But at the same time, also understand how it is being used. What are we able to answer well? What are we not able to answer well? What is the content that is missing? How should we add more content in? How do we make it useful more and more on an ongoing basis, right? So that's likely to be how AI platforms will evolve, and all industries are likely to be significantly impacted by this, with a focus on improving productivity. That's how I would look at it.
I see. So when it comes to training the AI. So it
Mhm.
is all about I think this is one of the process that I could find from internet. So
Mhm.
we prepare the data, we train the model and
Yeah,
evaluate the model, and
yeah,
then deploy the and then monitor the model. So that's the thing. And then end of the day, the model is like acting as like a sort of intelligent person, as if he is like
right.
a human being. So that helping sort of a student for every step of the way. I think that's the case that you're talking about. So,
Yeah.
for example, let's say we are trying to train a kind of a virtual assistant who
Mhm.
is going to help a student
Mhm.
to do some kind of research activities. So,
Right.
how sort of would your solution work in this case? Because I'm talking about this from the point of view of a typical sort of group of companies where they have a lot of students attending different classes in a very big company, right? So these kind of things, right? If a typical sort of youngsters uh, jump into the company and then help you to sort of establish this kind of sort of solutions in a
Mhm.
typical corporation. So how will this thing look like? Is it possible for you to explain to us a little bit more?
Yes, and the diagram that you have is a perfect diagram to kind of explain this. So thanks for that. So, uh, so let's first talk about the diagram in more detail to understand the technical aspect here, right? So the diagram, that's the middle circle with black arrows: data preparation, model training, model evaluation, model deployment, model monitoring, and then continuous cycle on that of how you re-prepare data with like true and false cases based on what you see and retrain the model to make it better and better. That is the core of each model, right? Uh, and the good news is there are a lot of models that are available already for us to use, right? So typically, this is more of like research work that is done by ML engineers, data scientists, and it's like long-term research, right? It takes multiple iterations to get it right, right? Now, in a way, if we look at the state of the industry now, one thing that we could relate this to is the black circle in the middle are core models that are done by research institutes, by large businesses. In a way, it's done by universities, and there's also a lot of models from like government organizations, regulatory bodies, but also public models that can be taken through open source or available as like a SaaS model through APIs, right? If you look at what OpenAI or Google Vertex AI or Microsoft Azure AI services, Amazon has recently announced, like in fact, last night they have announced um, uh, the Q solution, which is similar to what we have been talking about as well for businesses to mine their data and make it easily accessible. So the core models have typically been coming from universities, research institutes, government bodies, open source initiatives, and through large companies like OpenAI, Microsoft, right? Uh, that gives us a base model, right? It's a base model on which we can build. The green arrow that you show there, that is what companies like ours do, right? Like we focus a lot on fine tuning, retrieval augmented generation, or like prompt engineering, feedback loops, and building an end-to-end system which is directly usable by businesses, educational institutions, or even by end consumers, right? So that's the part over there. And that green arrow is a huge opportunity uh, for young engineers to focus on, right? What it would mean is to understand the underlying models. We still don't need to get into the complexity of training a model, evaluating a model, deploying, continuously monitoring, all of that, right? Either we could start off with like open source models that are available, deploy it on our servers and build on top of that, or use SaaS API models from all the cloud companies uh, and build on top of that, right? Because the base model is available, but the base model is useful for generic use cases, right? It's like uh, and then we build specific use cases on top of that, right? Let's say it's an education focused on specific areas, or we want to build an end-to-end solution which involves like uh, drilling deep, coming back and finding similar areas, things that you build on top of the model, right? And at the same time, you build like a feedback mechanism to see what is working well, what is not working well, what is their interest for, how can we fine tune the model further for more use cases. That is the green arrow, right? It still uses the base model, but tunes it for specific use cases, right? It could be to answer end customer questions or frontline staff questions regarding products of a financial institution, right? Or it could be to answer end consumer questions regarding policies of an e-commerce company, right? Or it could be for answering education related question, allowing a student to drill deep, come back, find similar areas, go at their own self-learning model, right? It's not just self-learning pace, but it's even the direction in which they want to go, right? It's like uh, spend more time on whatever area they want, drill further into that, understand in more depth, rather than going by a textbook approach where the structure is determined by someone else, right? So that's what this green arrow enables us to do. And that green arrow is really the new revolution that's happening in Gen AI now, right? It's like that opens up a lot of possibilities. Uh, Initially, we spoke about like businesses being able to use it or educational institutions being able to use it, but it also opens up a lot of possibilities for engineers, developers, freelancers, startups to focus on this area and build very powerful solutions for a specific domain, which the general model does not optimize for, but tune it for that specific domain, make it really powerful for that domain, build all the engineering around that to make it as a compelling end use case, right? So that's a big model. End of the day, it should solve a genuine problem for someone or make them do their work better, right? It's like that's what should be the goal. And there's a huge opportunity in the green arrow area right now. And I do think a lot of startups, they're already focusing on that, and many startups are likely to come up focusing on the green arrow area.